Hi guys. This time of year is great, really useful for planning what you're going to do in the garden this year, and obviously you've got time to do so. You're not busy in the garden weeding or doing major work. It's much more of a planning phase, and I get really quite excited about the growing year ahead at this time of year when I finalise my plans. One really useful tool for planning at this time of year is to look back on videos or photos taken during the summer and also spring and autumn as well, so that you can see how the garden looks at various times of the year. It's very difficult to imagine exactly how the border behind me looks in the summer, and it certainly looks nothing like it does at the minute. I'm sort of giving myself advice here as well, because historically I haven't been very good at documenting the garden, but from creating this channel almost a year ago, I've got almost a year's worth of how the garden looks, so it's really useful for me to look back on. I'd really recommend that you do something similar. If it's not a video, just take some pictures every couple of months. Flowers are something that I struggle with here. Not because of where I am, just because of my experience or lack of it in flowers. I feel like I've got a decent backbone to the garden, but what will really bring it on to the next level is flowers and flowering throughout the season as well, I think. So let's take the next minute and a half to look back at the flowers from last July. Looking back at that footage, I think the raised beds looked in the past tense, pretty good. Not perfect, there's plenty of room for improvement, but that's not where my focus is going to be this year. I'm going to try and repeat that and do something with the long border behind me, in particular close to the house where we can see it from inside. I'd like to focus on that area really. Regular viewers will know that I spend very little in the garden. I don't buy big expensive plants. I buy seeds, seedlings or young cheap plants, and try and use these cheap plants to in multiples to create a nice effect, repeating effect. So it won't be a surprise that I'm going to grow flowers from seed. I'm not going to buy bedding, because I'm going to need actually quite a lot of it, and I think for my budget, which is nothing really or very little, I'm going to definitely growing from seed is the right thing for me. Of course, the risk is that they don't germinate or they don't develop well, and I could be left with another summer without flowers, and then in that case I'll have to assess the situation. Maybe I'll buy some bedding, probably not as much as I'd like, but do something to get me by at least. So in terms of what flowers I'm going to grow, I'm going to look back at a video that I did last year in which I asked for some recommendations, and people kindly wrote down what they recommended for my garden. The criteria was flowers that looked or would fit in with an exotic style garden, and flowers that continued flowering for months on end, not something that just does its thing for a couple of weeks or a month. I want something that really keeps going for months at a time. So I'm probably going to stick to 2 varieties. I haven't chosen them yet, but I'll look through the video and pick 2, and that way I'm not pushing myself too far. You know, I don't want to complicate things. Quite a simple guy. So if I can master these 2, then next year, you know, I can either repeat them and add some more, or, you know, change them up or whatever, but at least I'll have some experience of hopefully getting it right with just 2 species. And thank you to everyone who did comment on that video from last year. I really do enjoy reading the comments and interacting with people, and you know, I appreciate you spending, you know, I know it's just a few seconds, but spending the time to interact with the channel. Thank you very much. Now, whilst it's a nice dry day, it's not the warmest day, but it's nice and dry at least, and it has been for the past couple of weeks really. A lot of dry weather, which is unusual for us here in the northwest of England. But what I'd like to do today is cut the leaders off of the Wollemi pine. I was wondering how to pronounce it then. I got corrected on a previous pronunciation. It's Walemi, I believe. And it's developed a nice form, I believe. I mean, that's how it should look, but all of a sudden it's got about 5, probably 6 maybe leaders coming up, and the central leader, which is the one we want, is slightly smaller than the ones on the outside. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, whether that's normal or not, but if I leave it, I feel like it will expand at that point, and I think that will look a bit odd. It'll be top heavy, or I'm not happy about that. So I'm going to take off the secondary leaders, leaving just the one solitary stem. Okay, now that looks very different. The most central leader is actually the smallest of all of them. So I was a bit reluctant to, once I got up there, to remove the rest, but it's definitely the most central of the leaders that were there. You can see from all angles it's virtually spot on as the central leader. I don't know if you can see there just how many I took off, but looks to me like 7 that I removed. I was using the secateurs, but also some of them I had to just snap a little bit to get my secateurs in there. May have dropped one as well, so there could have actually been 8, but certainly 7. Some of them quite big and chunky, chunkier than, that's probably about the same as the one that is left on there in terms of thickness. So you can see some of them are much thicker and taller, and are starting to branch off as well. Although the leader up there still does have some small ones, like maybe like this, branching off as well. So hopefully that solves that little issue, nips it in the bud. We'll see. So here in the front garden, I've got 4 quite large pots, various palms and exotics in, and a regular job this time of year is actually pushing them up against the wall of the house when it gets very cold. I'm talking, sub-zero. And then trouble is you don't want to leave them there for too long because they don't really want to be up against the house. There's not enough room really for them. These ones on the other side of the house are much smaller. I know the Shamrops humilis and the Cordyline date palm really want to be away from the house, but I think it just about works that they are up against the wall. Certainly the bigger plants need to be away from the wall so that they've got space to carry on growing. And the whole point, of course, of bringing the plants right up against the house is to give them an extra, a degree or 2 of heat, of temperature. The house is obviously warm on the inside, and the bricks on the outside, although, on one side they're getting cold from outside, but on the other side of the brick it's getting warmth from inside the house. So the actual brick is warmer than the ambient temperature outside when it's very cold. If you watched episode 1 from January, then you'll remember the montage of shots from our visit to London, and in particular the St James's Park tropical border was absolutely fantastic, and lots of people commented on that and said how fantastic it was. Some had seen it themselves, others wanted to know what it looked like now. Well, I live quite a long way from London, so unfortunately I can't get down there to document that, but next time I'm in London I certainly will be heading down there. If you haven't seen episode 1, then I will link that in the description below. Whilst we were in London last year, August I think it was, we also visited Princess Diana's Memorial Playground in Hyde Park, and what a fantastic place it was. Obviously it's a children's play area, but it opened in the year 2000 with probably some very small plantings of palm trees and other exotic plants, and 20 odd years later this is how it looks. Princess Diana's Memorial Playground really is a fantastic place. Now, obviously, it's a children's playground, so it's for people with children, that's the idea. It does get busy as well, so you have to get there quite early to actually get in, because they limit the amount of people going into the playground. And of course, although it's gated and it feels very safe, you do need a responsible adult to be there with you so they can watch your children whilst you go off and explore the palm trees and other exotic plants. So I grow a lot of cordylines in the garden, and quite a few of them have got to the flowering stage now. Certainly last year seemed to be really the year for flowering cordylines. A lot of them flowered for the first time, and this flower stalk has, in fact, there are a couple of seeds left on there, but it's virtually lost all its seeds now. So these are the seeds. When they're white, they are ripe, and they should come off very easily inside this seed pod, which breaks very easily, but is very difficult to do on camera. There is, can you see there, little black seed, very small black seed, and that will germinate in spring and summer and create new cordylines. So this, what I'll do now with that is I'm just going to throw it into the border and see what grows next year. Now I expect that most of these have dropped off into the border. I can see one there, I can see one there, maybe a couple more dotted about. Not as many as I'd expect to see. It is directly over the grass really, so unfortunately they might mostly be in the lawn, although I can't see any. But I'll just let them do their thing. I can always, you know, people say you can't move cordylines, but you know, as they're seedlings you can move them if you're very careful with the roots, no problem at all. So that's what I'll do if we actually get any germinations. It'll be interesting to see what happens. What I'm going to do now is cut off this flower spike, just to tidy up the appearance of the cordyline a bit more. So this cordyline in the raised bed, it's bigger than it looks, or not as big as it looks, I mean, because it's got a bit of a head start there, look. That flowered last year, and I cut off the flower spike, and but only when the seeds were ripe. So I waited for the seeds to go white, to turn white. Then I put this plastic bag over it, chopped off the end of the stalk, and have placed it in here so that it's going to be difficult to show this, but any seeds that fall off remain in the bag. And then what I'll be able to do very soon is simply brush them off so that all the seeds are in the bag, and then I can pot them up to try and germinate. There's probably several hundred seeds in there, so with any luck we'll be having lots of new cordyline plants, which I'll be dotting about the garden, keeping loads in pots, eventually selling a few, I imagine. But yeah, that's a little experiment. That's the first time I've tried doing it this way, but it seemed like a good idea to keep hold of all the seeds and not lose them. The feedback from episode 1 was really good. Thank you if you commented. Thank you very much if you liked as well. It really does help generally on YouTube. It helps the creators feel like what they're doing is worthwhile. And what I'm planning to do now is put out a video like this, a sort of magazine style video, lots of different videos put together basically, about once a month. And I think that's going to be much more manageable for me. It's very, very time consuming to create videos, edit them, plan them firstly. And I think it's going to work for me going forward. I'm also probably going to put out a few random videos as well here and there, but certainly a regular video like this, which will be numbered as an episode, will be about once a month. I'm going for quality over quantity at the moment, and I hope not too many people are laughing at that. There's certainly no guarantees on the quality bit, but that's the aim, is to provide more meaningful videos that people want to watch and spend time watching from start to finish. If anyone's got any comments, then please do leave them below. As I say, I do really enjoy responding to them, even the odd random comments that don't seem to make any sense. Still good to see. So thank you very much. I'm going to leave you with some more footage of the flowers from last summer. It's not going to be too long now before we're seeing flowers again this year. Thanks for watching.